Welcome back to Life, Biz and All That Jazz, the podcast where real talk meets transformation. If you're navigating your mental health, sobriety, or wanting to create a life that truly feels like yours, then this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Jasmine, and every week we share the raw, we share the inspiring, we share the beautiful stories of everyday people with the purpose to share with you so you never feel alone. If you're new here, welcome. Welcome to the family. I am so excited that you're here. And if you've come back for more, thank you. Thank you for trusting in my vision and coming back for more. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. So today's episode is a really exciting one. And I've wanted to have a guest on like this for a while to help my audience of mums, busy mums that work and are mums. That's something I haven't been able to cater to yet. And I know that I like to share a lot about mental health and sobriety and mindset, but then there's still always that business aspect that I have to life, biz and all that jazz. Hence the name, and being able to show you that, you can have a business, you can have family, you can have it all, but then you can still have a regulated nervous system. So what I share about the business side, I really want that to reflect back on mindset and mental health. And that's what today's guest shows. Today's guest is Alyssa Wolff. Back in 2020, she went from stay-at-home mum to online entrepreneur, launching a brand which now supports busy, overwhelmed, work from home mums. She's all about ditching the burnout, regulating your nervous system, and embracing the ease. Alyssa's business is called Your Unbusy Life, and I just love the ring to that title. And that's what we unpack today. We talk about how you can unbusy your life, get 3 hours back of me time every single day, so that's 20 hours a week, still get everything done, but learn how to implement systems and practices so you don't have to feel overwhelmed. You can show up as your best self and be the best version of a mum. I'm not a mother myself, so that's why I needed to get Alyssa on today. So that's enough from me. Let's bring in Alyssa. Alyssa, welcome to Life, Biz and All That Jazz.
Thanks, Jasmine. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. We've had a previous chat before and I've had a look at what you're doing, and I think what you've got to share is going to be really helpful, especially for the current climate. Here in Australia, I know like the US as well, it's just, a lot of mums are getting back to work and also a lot of them don't have the time. I'm not a mum myself, so that's why I need to get experts like you on to help share, because I've got a lot of mums that follow me, and I know my two best friends, I know they work, they're at home with the kids as well, but, it's not an easy thing to juggle. And I get tired looking after my niece and nephew, so I'd always take my hat off. So what I'd like to do is, at the start, what do you think is one key takeaway or one thing that you want our listeners to remember from today's conversation?
Give yourself permission just to fix one thing at a time, and make that first thing what's frustrating you most in your day as the working mom.
That's perfect. That's perfect. We can unpack that more later. So let's start from the beginning. Why did you start your journey and get to where you are today? Why do you share what you share now? What was something that really made you shift and realize I need to change?
Always wanted a purpose in addition to raising kids. And I just assumed you're going to go to university, pick the exact right major, graduate, get a job in that field, like boom, done. Well, problem was I didn't find the major that suited me. So I had to go for plan B. So I was like, all right, I'll start having the kids, but I'll wait for the purpose to show up. Like it's going to come anytime, right? So I have kid number 1, I have kid number 2, kid number 3, kid number 4, still no overarching purpose, kid number 5. Finally, after the birth of baby number 5, I hear about online business. I know what rock I was living under, but I heard about it. I was like, this is what I could do. I could work, I could stay home, I could raise all these kids, and I could have an impact on other women. This is wonderful. I could do it without the kids, but I'd have to wait another 17 years till this 7-month-old graduates from high school. No, thank you. I want to do this now. So then I got to dive into all what's my niche and what am I going to do? And it was like, I'm not stressed and frazzled and busy, even with the 5 kids. That's like unheard of, even for someone who only had 2 kids. Maybe this is my secret sauce. Maybe I should share that. It's like it was so normal to me. I thought, well, surely everyone knows about this. They just choose not to.
Mm-hmm. So then that's when you were like, all right, well, this is my niche. This is what I'm going to do. And you took it out to the world. I love what you said then about you weren't frazzled with 5 kids. So it's your systems that you had in place, and I don't know if you call them systems, but even for myself, my life, I've got systems that I do to get me through my day because I'm busy. I've obviously got the podcast. I've got my own business as well, and just life, going to the gym, catching up with people. Like it's a lot. And if you don't have the right things in place and you're not regulating your nervous system as well, I'm big on that because that's where it kind of stems from, I think, with a lot of things. We just build things up. Things build up, and build up. And then that's when we can't control it, when it gets out of that, control phase. So what do you do for yourself when you've got your time? Is there certain things that you do for yourself to make sure, that you can be the best in all other areas?
Definitely. So I split my me time. I get like 3 hours a day of it. I split it into that nervous system regulation and then doing hobbies. So the nervous system regulation is often like the meditation and the visualizations or journaling and affirmations. And then I will usually go for a walk to get some of the movement in and, keep getting that stuff out that's built up during the day. And then once it's all out and I'm decompressed, that's when I can shift to the hobby time without feeling like I'm still go mode. And then hobbies, I love reading. I love listening to podcasts. So pretty basic.
I think everyone loves reading. I love audiobooks. Yes, and podcasts. I think podcasts, that's why I started this. I started because I loved listening to podcasts and I just thought there's just so many out there. And then I just had a few ideas and I thought, no, we need to hear more people. And that's why I have different guests for different modalities and different areas to really help people not feel alone. And that's my whole priority. And I guess it can be lonely if being at home. Did you have phases where even though you're with the kids? I know I've obviously talked to my mum. My mum raised 4 kids and some of that time was as a single mum. And that's the thing, is you can get so busy. And do you feel like there's points where you can get lonely? Is that why you like connecting with other people or listening to podcasts?
Podcasts are mostly because I just love learning. So I needed something to do to feed my desire for information without having to go back to school. And then not really lonely. I'm actually a pretty strong introvert. And then again, 5 kids, it's like quiet is harder to come by. So I don't need any more people.
So you've got your own little bubble there that you're working on. Yeah. And getting the 20 hours a week back. So is that to do with that's the 3 hours of me time a day? So that's what you focus on. So how does someone start? Like what are some little tips and wins that you would suggest if someone's like really feeling, like you said, frazzled, they just don't have any time, but then they just feel like there's nothing that they can shift? What are things that they should be looking for to know that something needs to change?
Well, first, that's super common because we're high achievers. If we've got kids, it feels like we've got one too many plates to keep in the air. And my way is not do more, get more productive, be more disciplined. My way is more saying, what can you actually get rid of that you thought you had to keep? So, for example, we're not going to add self-care into your schedule, me time into your schedule, and say this is another to-do you have to squeeze in. We're going to kick things out to make room for that because you're not going to be fighting over, well, I should, but I can't. If you have room, 2 or 3 hours of it smack in your schedule, we can start with 1 hour if you need to. So we need to go through and think about delegating something in your business, something in the housekeeping. Okay, a lot of some things. Stuff like that, because no, you cannot cook everything from scratch, clean every single thing in the house yourself, spend all the quality time with your husband and kids, meet people, work out, take care of yourself, regulate your nervous system, do your job. Like you cannot do all of those things at once and still have time for a hobby. Duh. So you have to start thinking, okay, is me scrubbing the toilets worth not regulating my nervous system? Is me cooking every single meal worth not ever having a hobby again until they all graduate? Things like that. And it kind of comes down to that self-worth and saying, yes, I'm a mom, I have kids, but I don't have to deprioritize myself completely. In fact, if I prioritized myself, if I de-stressed my nervous system, I would show up way better in all of these roles.
100%. And it's like that cup half full kind of analogy. If you're putting too many parts of the cup water into too many areas, it's going to run dry. For someone that's overachieving, well, let's make a little avatar of a person that's overachiever. Say they've got 3 kids and, you know, they've got a lot going on. Because they're obviously an overachiever, I think this is a big thing, like overachiever perfectionist. Also, it can be quite hard to delegate tasks. So I know one thing that would be easy for someone to delegate is the cleaning. If you can spare that time and afford that money to allocate, how would you tell someone to kind of shift their mindset to be like, all right, I can welcome someone into my house? Because I think that's a big thing as well. I've spoken to my friends with kids and they just don't want anyone to come into their space and they like to do it a certain way. Is cleaning kind of a task that people start to delegate, or is it more like you mentioned about the meals? What are things that people would actually choose first?
I think cleaning is one of the easiest that they pick first.
Yeah, that's
Sometimes
what I thought.
they might also outsource to their kids. In that case, you can add stuff like laundry or cooking that, you know, housekeeping may not handle. And it
It's free.
depends. Yes, exactly. Because then there again, if you've got money issues, you could still work on your delegation blocks by saying, I'm teaching the kids life skills. Like, I'm not sending them to university, not knowing how to cook or sew in a button or do laundry. So why shouldn't they
Yes.
practice for my benefit?
Exactly. That's a really good one because you don't think like that. I did a lot of chores growing up.
Oh, same.
Yeah, and it was just normal. I think it was normal back then. Now
Mhm.
it's a little bit different. I think, yeah, kids are just a lot of the time it's like, oh, just watch the iPad or like just go outside and play so I can have my time inside. But really, it can be different. It can be getting the help, but also teaching kids life skills.
Yes. And
And
then
that's
if they're
important.
doing chores, they're having a task. Would you feel bad if you were off doing your business or something like that? It's like you're not taking that time away from quality time with them. They have a project, you have a project. You're co-working in the house, essentially.
I think a big thing as well is if you're using that time, you're saving that time to be a better mum for them. I
Uh-huh.
think that's a win-win situation. You've got that time, you know, to spend more on business and stuff as well. Because I'm sure you could probably delegate more. You know, it depends on what it is. What else are things? So we've obviously talked about cleaning, the meals and stuff. Is that something that you've suggested people like order meals or meal prep?
For sure. And then again, there are a lot of different levels of this. If you have young kids and you don't have funds, the fastest way to deal with that is just get the repeatable menu. Maybe that whole cook once or twice on the weekend and eat a bunch of leftovers, things like that. So, like, don't be sitting there every week scrolling Pinterest for some new fancy curry. Just be like, in this phase of my business and with my kids' ages, I can't have the menu variety. I did before. But again, you're not saying never. You're just saying it is more worth it to me to have that calm down nervous system than it is to try 3 different curries this month. Maybe I can try
Yes.
one. Maybe I'm going to say, nope, not this year. We're just going to keep making macaroni and cheese. We're going to be making pasta. We'll have takeout once or twice a week. We're going to have leftovers, you know, ask my husband to grill, use the leftover meat in something else, in a stir fry or whatever. There are all kinds of ways to simplify what you're doing, even if it's not, you know, the perfect homemaker.
And I think the way that you explain it as well is it's really just removing the pressure and the expectation that other people have. Do you feel like that's a big thing in comparison? Because really, at the end of the day, I think all that matters, and this is coming from someone, obviously, I have a similar mindset. I mean, it's a different thinking because with not having kids, but long as I can go to bed every night and wake up and be happy with what I've done and proud of me and, you know, that I did better yesterday, I think that's just an easy way to start. It's just removing the comparison that you need to be better than anybody else. Because what comparison it connects to perfectionists. I think there's a very big link there when it's someone wants to be perfect, but what's perfect? Getting up and doing tasks every day. That's fine. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's yours. Do you feel like that's similar with what you do? Is that it can be a bit of a comparison thing to fight that first, you know, kind of remove that? Do you ever have that experience?
Yes, 100%. That is a very common mindset block with my clients. And I'm having to reframe that for them. You are not supposed to be comparing yourself to the stay-at-home mom that her entire job is how nice do the kids' lunch boxes look and how white glove clean is my house. Your job is to compare yourself to someone else who's saying, I want the passion project and I want to be the present mother and keep up my marriage and keep up my body. And that, the food is nowhere in there. That should not be the priority. Getting people fed is the priority, but the fanciness of your meals, that can't fit at the top.
I think it's also a thing about the long term is looking after your health and your mindset and your body, reducing that stress. That's a long-term goal, where a lot of the fancy meals and stuff, that's short term. Like, you're not going to be making the kids' lunches forever, but you are going to be in your body forever.
Yes. So do you really want to build a business you're going to have to burn down because you threw everything at it and tried to throw everything at how good your homemaking was at the same time? And then you're like, shoot, didn't work. I'm burnt out. My adrenals are fried. No, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, like being a mother, there's just so much. I just feel so inspired by mothers. My mother, my friends, like what you're doing. And I think that you already do such a good job, and all these extra things, like you said, like making sure the house is perfect, making sure the lunches look good, or the kids are dressed, spending 25 minutes a morning picking out their outfits. Let them pick it out themselves. Let them do their creativity. I think there's so much more that and having that time, which is more important. And that's something that I've learned a lot myself, and I strive when I do become a mother, is just to remove that perfectionism. And probably now that I already have done a lot of that work, I'll probably be different than what I would have been if I wasn't, before I did a lot of my own internal healing. So that's something that I always get really, really excited about. So let's chat a bit more about what you do specifically. So Your Busy Life I've got that's your website. So I've had a look at that, and that's what you're doing. I will put all your details in the show notes as well, so everyone can have a look. But do you want to just explain more about your process? We've unpacked a fair bit, but I'm sure there's a lot more.
Yes, I take everyone through my signature process of scheduling, mindset, and delegation, because scheduling is what you're going to need to fit everything into your day, but it's also how we handle your to-dos. You're going to schedule them into your day, and you're going to schedule your self-care in as well, because that's a key need for you as the working mom. So the only way it's going to get there is if you make yourself take it. So scheduling is kind of that overarching umbrella for how we're running your day. Then you need the mindset, because this is where we say, oh, I don't feel comfortable asking my 9-year-old to do laundry. What's behind that? Because if I can tell you, you're going to save this much time per week by having your kids do the laundry for you, and you say, but that doesn't feel right, you will never delegate the laundry to them. So we have to work on the mindset blocks you've got. And maybe it's not that. Maybe it's, I feel like I should cook every single night of the week and package up all the leftovers and wash the dishes and clean the kitchen. Okay, we definitely have to fix that, because imagine how much more energy you would have for the bedtime story and bath routine if you didn't have 2 hours of work before that, of the housekeeping stuff. So that's huge. And then the third part, the delegation, as we already talked about, since we can't do it all, we're going to get rid of every single thing in your house and your business that doesn't have to be done by you. It just needs someone who's, at a 10-year-old level in the kitchen, or any old contractor pretty much, who could handle these admin tasks in your business. And you would be surprised how many things you're doing if you actually listed out every single thing day to day for an entire week and then said, yes, but what skill level does that take? And you removed, again, a little bit more of the mindset work. You removed but it has to be done this precise way. Well, no, the laundry just has to be clean and back in the drawers. It doesn't have to be your underwear folded in this precise direction, So those are the 3 things I'm doing. But what makes me different is I'm doing it from a done for you process, because working mothers have so much going on. You do not need someone else saying, fix your life and do it this way and spend weeks and months figuring it out. So what I'm doing, because I love playing with the time puzzle pieces, I'm taking their information for them, and then I'm creating all that schedule. I'm running them through, okay, here's how you do this. Here's what you need to delegate. Here's what you can get rid of on the business side. Here's what you can get rid of on the kids side based on your kids' ages. And then I can present it to them and say, okay, give me the feedback and tweaks, because you know your home better than I do. And maybe you forgot something the first time around. And then now you have this wonderful, perfect, you're like, oh yes, this would be great. There's going to be a but coming. You'd be like, well, that's great, but I wouldn't actually show up this way. And then we go into the mindset reworking. And then we go into the 30 days of, okay, what would you do when your kid doesn't get to the bus on time and you have to drive them in? And that wrecks your perfect schedule for the day. Let's figure out what to do, because we cannot just work on perfection. I'm sure you know already. You cannot just expect your schedule to be perfect all the time, and the routine is always your ideal. You have to have some margin and flex room for this. So I want to be there to hold their hands through that process as well. The adjusting, the adapting to your everyday real life, because sometimes we get so caught up in what would be splendidly ideal, we almost forget, actually, more often than not, my 2-year-old comes home sick from daycare. So you need the sick schedule. That's closer to your norm,
That's perfect. And I love that you do that for them as well, because I think that can be a lot. It's already an extra task. They're wanting your help, but then you're saying, okay, well, now go do all this with the time that you don't have. And I think the option to have like a sick schedule. So knowing that they have the awareness to, shift. If something comes up that's not on plan, they already know what to do instead of it. Is that what you're saying? So you kind of like prepare them for worst case scenarios or schedule shifts.
Exactly.
Before, so they've already got that awareness of not, oh, what am I going to do? This is my schedule. She made this for me. Now I don't know what to do. So you're not just helping them, you're also giving them different scenarios to everyday life, which things are going to come up. And I think we can plan as much as we want. And what would you do if like there was a sick child and they couldn't have their me time that day because they were looking after the child? Is there something that you have planned for that?
Yes, though usually that's rewording it. It's not a case of you cannot have free time now. If your child's young and sick, they're going to need to go sleep, right? It's more a case of, what do I need to bump from my plate so I can take care of them and still have the me time? Like, is that deadline really Friday this week? Or is that the case of, if they were in school, I would have gotten it done by Friday of this week, but it's actually due 2.5 weeks. It's being honest that you still have the same needs. You still need the me time. In fact, you might need it more if you have whiny sick kids. So again, we don't have to make you the martyr and you the person who has to get the short end of the stick all the time. But what is that going to take? Fetching freezer meals? Going out to eat? Asking your husband if he can cook for you because the kid is sick? Like, do you have to be the person who handles everything and then get sick yourself because you didn't have any workouts, any me time, any breaks, whatever, and you just had to go till the kid got over the flu?
You're still giving you that time. And like you said, why do mums have to miss out just if things change? Yes, it definitely needs to be. So with your plan, do you work over, is it like a certain time, or how does it all fold out when someone comes to work with you?
And this is roughly a 4-month process. Basically, as soon as they start, they fill out that ginormous intake form so I can have all the details. And that's all you have to do for like the first 30 days, because I'm sitting there creating all of those schedules and routines and outsourcing lists. And then we just book one call to walk through that. And then I go take another month and make all the changes for them. So I'm trying to make this the least amount of lift in their schedule. So if you're busy, you don't need Zoom calls every week, so the minimum amount of time. And then once that happens, we do a third call, which is mom mindset rewiring. So I can just sit there in the moment, be like, I hear you saying this. Ooh, this is what's beneath that. And then we have the 30 days of daily access going, this is what the ideal schedule said. This is what's happening in real life. Here's how we adjust it so you can get right back on track. Because it isn't about building the most perfect on paper. It's about, can this take your real life? Can this handle mom life with all the boat rocking that happens?
Do you mainly work with stay-at-home mums, or is it mums that also go to work as well?
Any kind of working mom, but she's probably going to be working from home. Like, I can help some with anyone, but it's going to have the most help if you have control over your schedule.
Yes, of course. What if they've got their own business, but they have to go to a place?
That'll work too. Yes, I've
Yeah.
had some clients who needed to go out of the house to the business, but fundamentally they could still control at least somewhat their hours.
Because you don't realize there's a lot of freedom in that. But then I think a lot of the time we don't, until you understand this, and especially breaking it down how you have, we don't realize the time that we have. And I think as well, we overestimate. I know I do. A lot of the times before you have a schedule like really that's been, planned and dissected like what you create, a lot of the times we overestimate how long things take. Yeah. So we might think, oh, we just got to do, I've just got to cook dinner, do the dishes, put some laundry away. Like you said, that's a few hours, and that's a lot, especially if you've been on the go all day. And we push ourselves. Me, I do this as not having children. I know how much sometimes I get to the end of the day and I think, oh, I was going to plan to do this, this, and this after dinner, just to plan for tomorrow. And I get there and I'm like, I can't even think. Like my brain's fried. But then I look how much you've done today. This is not necessary. It can be done tomorrow. And I think that's probably something as well is, do you have categories of like extra tasks? Like you mentioned something about, does this need to be done by Friday?
Yes.
So is that something as well? It's like high priority, like get this done today. This can be done next week.
Yes. The margin is huge, especially if you're someone who's a high achiever and you're coming into our work together with this mile-long to-do list and you're feeling the pressure, like you feel like you should get it all done this week to catch back up, to be good, to please that perfectionistic self. Then we have to really work on, that's what you want to do, but it's mostly because you feel you should do it. So what's realistic here? How about if I have any spare energy, I will go cross off 2 things from that list. If I have no spare energy, guess what? It wasn't necessary. This is just an expectation I'm placing on myself. And then every time we're rearranging the schedule for the sick kid or what have you, that's what we're doing. We're re-tiering the priority list and saying, that's a priority 3. Sick kid was priority number 1. Giving yourself some me time is also priority number 1. Okay, that is due by tomorrow. That's also priority number 1. That stuff, nah, it doesn't need to happen. I could get to it next month. Like, does it really matter if 3 weeks from now it's on Tuesday morning's workload? Did it have to be this Thursday's?
And when they're moving stuff to like the next month or the next week, it's also just removing that catch-up kind of thinking as well, thinking I've got to do more this week because I moved this from last week. But really it's just getting what needs to be done. What is some of your biggest resistance that you feel like that you've had with clients that you've worked through?
Definitely a lot on the boundaries. So I think we already mentioned the one, which was, well, I don't feel worthy of asking someone for help, whether that was the kids. And so then you're not even keeping the chore boundaries that you set. Well, I could ask them to do this, but, and then you kind of talk yourself out of it. And then there's also the self-expectation boundary of, well, I feel culturally speaking that my role as a wife and mother includes this, this, and this. And so now you're trying to run the business and work on top of that, and it won't all fit in. Or there can also be the case where you know very well what your needs are. You're like, I really need to go to yoga 3 times a week, or I feel terrible. But my kids want this and expect me to help with their homework, and they didn't clean up from the bath, and there's some more mold in the shower, and you feel that your role in the family is the person who fixes everything. So even though you really need that exercise class, you won't do it because you don't want to make them uncomfortable and show up and say, you have to clean that. That was your mess. And keep being on them about it, or add consequences, or redirect your husband when he complains about the state of the house in the living room, saying that was their chore. They were supposed to pick that up. They're not 2-year-olds anymore. They're 12-year-olds. It is their problem. It is not mine that they didn't hang up their hoodie. So, go scold them. And if not, they're going to lose tech time. They can't go to the game Friday night, whatever it is. But it takes a lot of, you run into a lot of mental discomfort. So it takes a lot of iron control, in a sense, to hold that and say, this is not me. That's on them.
That's really good explanation, I think, because I think does it get to a point where you shift from the kids are too young to kind of help to they're actually 12 now? Is that like something that you need to work through? Because yes. I see that with like my friends and that some couple of the girls are 10 now. Their daughters are 10. And now they're starting to do more because they're like, oh, well, actually, and they cook, like they want to do more as well. I think some kids actually get excited. They're cooking pancakes for breakfast and doing all this real fun stuff. So the chores, if you can cook pancakes, you can cook something else. You can help with some chores and stuff in that as well. And I guess that would be a bit of a process, being like, oh, well, they're not babies now. They're actually this age.
Yeah, and sometimes the mom is kind of holding on to that previous version of the kids, and she doesn't want to outsource to them because that would mean admitting their...
Does that come up as well?
Yes.
Yes, I think that would, because I feel like even with my mum, I go traveling and she still worries about me and, you know, checks in and don't do that. Don't do anything like dangerous on the holiday overseas or something. I think it's a blessing to have that love and care. But then in your situation, what you're doing and what you're trying to share is they need to come first. Mums need to come first, I think. Is that something that you say, like they need to be a priority, but doesn't mean that that need to be selfish?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Although if you're a high achiever and you're doing all these things, usually you're not even in the game for selfish. Whatever you think is selfish is probably actually your bare minimum for taking care of yourself.
Yes. And it's, working with that mindset. Have you got anything planned next for you? Or you're like doing what you're doing and loving working with your clients? What's on the agenda?
Yes, I'm more evergreen. So depending on when this comes out, I'll have a special promo, I think, in December for a limited time audio series. But those will be coming out every other month. So if this is done December, there'll be another one in February. So
what's the favorite things that you like about what you do? What's some things that, you know, really light you up about what you get to help women do when you see some transformations?
Well, I love the transformation piece. I don't know, ever since I was little, I was fascinated with the transformation stories of the before and the after, and just how radically you can change, how much you can love your life afterwards. Like, doesn't matter if it's weight loss or, you know, time management. The stories are incredible. And then personally, I'm a detail person, so I think it's so fun to be able to just like collect a whole bunch of details and then actually analyze and spit out something useful. Like, these aren't just numbers on a time card. They actually mean something about you and your mindset and your priorities day to day.
That was perfect. I think what you're sharing is great. I'm really excited for this episode to come out because I feel like I talk a lot about business. My podcast is a big focus. We talk about mental health, mindset, boundaries, sobriety, like people that, you know, don't removed alcohol to be a better person. And another big thing is business. And I've got my own business, and how having your own business to support your mental health and your mindset and your lifestyle. And I think what you're doing now is really going to fit into my category of business for mums. I really love that. And I think it's quite inspiring, you know, to be able to be a mother, but then also you still want to have your own thing. I think that's very important. And I can see even with friends when they've gone back to work, or even if it's a little bit, you know, a few hours, just a lot of things shift. And, you know, they've got that own me time again and the kind of like that excitement. So I think it's great. And we don't realize the power of a good schedule till you have a good schedule. And a backup schedule. I love that you do that. That's something that's really good. Let's take it back to what you said at the start. I can't remember for words, but I know that you'll remember.
Yes. Fix the one thing in your schedule
yes,
that is causing you the most resentment day to day. Like, you may have half a dozen resentment points, but pick the one that is just bugging the heck out of you right now. And let's change that. Because this is not a matter of maturity, getting more disciplined, or being more patient with your kids. Matter of get rid of that annoyance, and you're going to be so much happier. And you'll have so much more patience naturally with them. So why not? Like, this is the easy way around.
That was great. Thank you for sharing that. When I finish up the episodes, I always like to go back and say, like, what would you tell yourself before you started doing what you're doing, or before you had your schedule? If you could go back and tell your younger self, or did you always just have a schedule like this?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. No, I love that, because we didn't really touch on that. So what would you go back and tell someone that is frazzled, needs help, and doesn't know where to start?
Yes. Well, if you're way at the beginning, start doing what I did. You've got the little baby, they're down for a nap. You quit working, you give yourself self-care because you are on 24/7 whenever they're awake. So anytime they're asleep, quit with your to-do list and sit down. And you'll be able to build from there and get all kinds of systems and routines in place. But right now, as a mom with a little kid or the newborn, you have got to give yourself a break.
That's great. I think that's really important. It's very simple, but it's not, I guess it wouldn't be as simple when you can't go, because you think, oh, they're asleep. I've got to get this done. I've got to get that done.
Yeah. So reframe that too. No, while they're happy wiggling on the blanket, I will try to do that. I'll wear them and try to do that. If I can't be done when they're awake, then I can't get to it.
Ah, that's a good rule. That's a key. Yes. I love that. I love that. I'm going to highlight that in the show notes. That was a really good one. Do you have any like mantras or quotes that you go by? I have a quote that I love. It's progress, not perfection.
I think I like the one from Ali Casasa, just let it be easy.
Let it be easy. Ah, that's a good one. Because it can be easy and it can be fun. Things can be fun. I think, and then once you kind of start, obviously yourself and me, we can see the power, and a lot of people know that they need to focus on their nervous system, and I think it's quite a big thing right now. A lot of people are talking about it. I think it's more common because before we thought, oh, we're just stressed, like, high cortisol and stuff like that. But really, there's so much deepness to our nervous system, and it builds up over time and over time. If we're not looking after our nervous system, it's going to build up, and it's going to come out in other areas. We're going to react different. We're going to be stressed. So it's a very big place to start. And when you've got so many other people around you relying on you, like that's definitely needs to be a priority.
Yeah, and that's really what unbusy means. That was my short form for saying you're regulated, you're clear, you're calm. Your mental mindset is not busy. So unbusy.
Unbusy. Yes. I love it. I love it. Do you have anything else you want to share today before we wrap things up?
No, I think we covered it all.
Yes, we did. We did uncover it all. And I always get worried that I'll never have enough time and to go over everything. But no, we did. So what I'll do is I'll be linking all your details and everything in the show notes. Anything else you want me to add in there as well. So we'll talk about that. But I just want to thank you so much, Alyssa, for coming on today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Jasmine. And I can tell already you'll be making a great mom.
Thank you. I can't wait. I've just got to find a husband now that I'm in that. I think it's the point too where I just know who I am, and I've done all that deeper uncovering, and I know exactly what I want, and I'm not going to rush just because of a timeline or what society says. So for now, I'll get all my cuddles off my niece and nephews and my friends' girls, which are kind of like my chosen nieces and nephew. One of my friends actually just had a baby a couple of days ago, so that's really exciting. More babies to love for now, but yeah, one day I will. So I really appreciate that. Well, Alyssa, again, thank you so much for your time. And to everybody else listening, remember, it's progress, not perfection. And I will see you next week.